And this investigation is now, as we saw, in the hands of the FBI and will be looked at as a hate crime moving forward. So for more on that investigation and what it might entail in the coming days, we've reached Jack Cloonan. He is a former FBI special agent, and he was listening in to that update as well from officials in Pittsburgh. Perhaps you can tell us what stood out to you the most from what we heard from officials and investigators.
Well, the first thing I'd like to comment on is the bravery of the police officers who responded so quickly. If the allegations are true that the suspect, Mr. Bowers, had an assault rifle and three handguns, that's literally scores and scores of bullets that he had access to. 11 people having been killed, he can let go and fire off with the assault rifle in a matter of seconds, multiple rounds. So the big change in active shooter programming and protocols is to confront the shooter. And in this instance, if that officer didn't show up, that 11 fatalities could have turned into 20, 30, 40. One never knows. But the fact that they stood there and fought is the thing that makes the difference between massive casualties and 11. And I'm not here to say that 11 isn't horrific. It is. But in terms of the investigation, you heard the special agent in charge talk about all the stuff that they're going to look at immediately. And the first thing they're going to do is get to the suspect's residence. They will seize his computer, they will seize his phone. They want to make sure that they have everything tight with respect to his anti-Semitic remarks. They'll do a forensic analysis of the weapon. They obviously will have fingerprints and DNA. Certainly with the postmortems, they will hook the bullets up to that weapon. So it's a pretty straightforward investigation from there. But the larger issue becomes, will there be copycat killings like this? We've had two, we've had the arrest yesterday with the pipe bomb sender, and now we have this. I don't think that they're connected, but it's going to reinvigorate in our country this huge debate about gun control and social networking. Is it okay under our Constitution for somebody to go on a website and just vent their spleen with anti-Semitism? And I know that our Congress is looking at this, and the companies that provide this forum, they have to prevent this. They have to stop it, and they have to stop it immediately.
And, to the point of the investigation, you were saying that there are so many avenues that investigators will go down in terms of learning more about the history of the shooter in this particular case, and that will include going to his home, looking at his social media posts. How does this sort of an investigation differ now that it is, in fact, in the hands of the FBI rather than state or county investigators?
It really won't differ that much. They want to heed to what the statute for hate crime says, and that's pretty straightforward. So if this was given to the Pittsburgh Police, Allegheny Sheriff's Office, everybody would probably do the same thing. Again, we have a case that needs to be prosecuted. Evidence has to be contained and has to be put in the right order in order to bring charges, because as the U.S. Attorney in Pittsburgh said, they could file a complaint this afternoon, essentially going to an affidavit which would lead to an arrest warrant. He's obviously in custody. And then the case would be presented to the grand jury. But between now and when that case is presented before the grand jury, a lot of this investigative work that we've just discussed will become part of that, and it will all be laid out in a very clear manner in an affidavit. And this suspect will given all his rights and privileges. The subject will probably, if he can't afford it, will be given his Miranda rights, and will also be given a public defender, and the case will go forward. It's very important for us to follow the procedures and to make sure that we don't do anything that would, in fact, jeopardize this case. I mean, it's very important for us to bring people to justice.
Now, we did hear from the investigators during the course of that press conference that they did not have any knowledge of this suspected gunman prior to this incident today. How surprising maybe is that, given the fact that there are reports that he did post anti-Semitic content online, in the recent past?
Well, a number of people have done this previously. I can think of attacks in California and so on, where they literally say that what they're going to do and they announce it. So who is the audience? When he said this, I'm sick of standing by and watching my people being slaughtered. I'm going to go in, or I'm going for it. Now, is that acceptable speech? How are we going to prevent that? How are we going to stop this sort of thing from happening over and over again? And I think it's almost an impossible task. But as I said a moment ago, our media outlets and the social networking platforms, we have to be able to scrub this stuff. We have to be able to get these people offline. We cannot allow these things to happen. And in fact, he telltaled his actions, didn't he? We didn't necessarily know where he was going to go, but he followed through with what he said he was going to do. Somebody saw that, and maybe they didn't react quick enough. Maybe he's befriended stuff. They'll be looking at his Facebook and other things related to his computer and his digital footprint. But how are we going to stop all of this? As I said in an earlier comment, this is the 275th multiple victim attack that has taken place in the United States in 2018, and we have several months left to go. I mean, this is an unbelievable amount of violence.
And on that point, I wanted to ask you on a personal level, we certainly heard from the head of the public safety department in Pittsburgh, and also one of the FBI investigators said that in 22 years of working, this is in fact the most horrific crime scene that he's seen in his service. So how difficult do you imagine this will be going forward for those officials who are investigating this, and for, of course, the people who were there?
Of course, the witnesses, and the FBI has a witness program that they will work with him to get counseling. That's probably already put in place. But you can imagine what the crime scene must have looked like. Because if he had the weapons as described, he was probably very close to them. These were probably shots to the upper extremities and to the head area. And you can imagine what a high-velocity bullet will do to certain parts of the body. It's a terrible thing to look at. It's very difficult for the officers who are on the scene, the paramedics who have to deal with the bodies, how they compartmentalize this and how they process it themselves. Law enforcement officers are human beings. And when they step away from this and when the dust settles, they're going to need all the support they can. In addition to the officers that are wounded, anybody that comes in there and looks at this grisly crime scene, has to be treated. And the law enforcement community is very good at that. Unfortunately, is because we have so many of these episodes, and we have to reach out to the Jewish community. I think, as the governor has said and articulated very well, why did this person do this? Why was he targeting the Jewish community? What did he mean when he stood by and said that I'm sick of my people being slaughtered? What does that mean? We have to get inside the head of a person like this. And the way you do it, aside from him telling you, and let's be frank, he may be proud of what he did, and he may give a confession. That's not unusual. I was struck, though, by the president's comment about bringing back in the discussion about the death penalty. And, now we're going to get lawyers involved. I'm not sure what that means. Of course we're going to get lawyers involved. Everybody is presumed to be innocent in this country. And we shouldn't be talking as the head of state. President Trump should not be saying, well, lawyers are going to get involved, as if that's going to be the problem. That's not the problem. The availability of guns, the availability of social networking, and being able to spew this hatred, that's the problem. And we haven't got a solution yet.
Well, certainly a long road ahead, both on the fronts of this investigation and the recovery for everyone involved, and of course, the family members of those who were killed in this horrific attack. Again, we appreciate your time and your analysis today, Mr. Jack Cloonan.
Thank you.
And again,